What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Beyond the Nines. We've got a very special video for you today. We've got another interview with a fantastic Leicester fan. We've got Gary Lamb from C92, as you can see from his descriptions right there. First of all, Gary, how are you doing, mate?
Mate, I'm very good, thank you. Not too bad today. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very tired. We're seeing how Leicester City get on. We've obviously got an international break at the moment, so it's just a little bit more reduced on the content. But yes, just going to move on straight to, well, I want to get your thoughts on, obviously, you got the beautiful shirt which you've won
Yes.
which we won the FA Cup in. I want to get your experience and your take on that as well from the FA Cup. And what was that like for you?
Well, it's a strange one really because I've been living in Northern Ireland now for 5 years, I think. So like the chance to get over and all was it was never going to happen. But as soon as I watched this, obviously in the semi-finals, I thought we've got a chance to get into the final. I think I knew as well as anybody did that on a 90-minute game we can beat anybody. So I was quite confident that we could do it. So it was just a case of sitting down and watching it at home. Yeah, I mean, I celebrated just as loud as I would have done in a stadium. Both obviously Tielemans' absolute cracker, and also the disallowed goal as well. So that was it's just an amazing experience. Um, I just remember, like, obviously at the final whistle, it was almost like it's just overcome with emotion because I think during the game, you're watching the game. Obviously, you're in the lead, and you're sort of going, "Oh, it's going to happen." And you sort of think you prepare yourself, but there's still that bit in the back of your mind. Certainly, being a Leicester fan over the years, that something could still go wrong. And even after the disallowed goal, you still thought, "Well, that was close," but there's still time here. And then, yeah, just that final whistle. I actually think at the time I think I jumped up and cheered, but then actually like almost instantly went down onto my knees and was like sat in front of the TV, just like celebrating, pumping my hands and all. I think the other half sort of walked in, took one look at me and shook her head and walked out, to be honest, because she was a bit surprised to see me like that. But yeah, it was crazy, absolutely crazy. So even now, just thinking back to it, like just the pure emotion actually seeing us do it was incredible. Not something I ever thought I would see when I first started supporting Leicester at the age of 6 or 7. So yeah, can't be too many more good memories from before that, other than the obvious.
Yeah, great to hear, Gary. That's awesome. And one thing as well, I want to ask you, obviously, since supporting them since the age of 8 and stuff like that as well. So 6, as you were saying. What has been? Have you had a favorite player growing up, or especially because again, I always say to people, there seems to be two generations of Leicester, not especially supporting them when you're younger, when they weren't very good, and now from like 2012 to 2021 at the moment, there's kind of like two generations, two almost like feelings of different teams almost. So have you got one from that generation before basically the King Power takeover and one afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously was lucky enough to sort of grow up in the Martin O'Neill days of what was back then our best period. So watching the likes of even Impey, Sinclair, and then the fantastic mield of Steve Guppy, Muzzy Izzet, Neil Lennon, Robbie Savage, Heskey, Cotty, like so many great players. My favourite at the time was Muzzy Izzet. He's the one player every single year I got a shirt, his name was on the back of it. Absolutely loved him. I just think he just seemed to enjoy his football. Some of the stuff he did, on the pitch was incredible. Like you talk about some of the goals he scored, those volleys. He just seemed to love playing. So yeah, I think he was definitely my favourite sort of growing up in that era. Special place in my heart for Matt Elliott, seeing as I actually got to go to Wembley for the 2000 Worthington Cup final. So yeah, obviously again, so many great players, but Muzzy's it was a standout for me from probably the earlier era. More recent era, it's so difficult to almost pick. We've had some great players come through the club. Obviously, as much as Kante was only there for one season, we know how good he was. Even before that, when we signed Cambiasso, I couldn't believe our luck that he was coming to Leicester. Riyad Mahrez was probably the most gifted footballer I think I've ever seen in a Leicester shirt. Just everything he did, he was so natural. But for me, just every time Jamie Vardy is on the pitch, it's an excitement of what's going to happen, and just as a character as well. I mean, I don't know anybody that can like consistently wind up an opposition fan base as well as he can. So I think in that, just watching him over the years, and also again with the staying loyal, I think the time he almost went to Arsenal, he said no. And then I don't know if you've seen him on A League of Their Own there the other week.
Yeah, I've seen the clip.
And yeah, and I watched him on that, and yeah, he didn't say all too much throughout the show, but one of the things he's saying is like, no, I'm going to stay at Leicester till the end, and you just sort of think, that's a player that he's given so much for us, but he's still prepared to keep giving, and yeah, you just I love watching him play because he just plays that tenacity as well, which you don't get a lot of. Especially players that want to play for the club. So he would definitely be my player of this current era, especially as he's probably been there. Between him and Schmeichel have been there for the longest now. So
10 years.
Yeah,
I think we'll be soon.
I know.
Mental.
Yeah, be some testimonial.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can see the return of some of the title winning team as well for that. That'd be interesting.
I think so, because I think the only player I think recently at Leicester is Andy King. Obviously, kind of a testimonial for him would be pretty much getting the championships winning side and the Premier League winning side kind of back into one. I think that's a testimonial. I think with the club and how community orientated it would happen, I think that one that's I won't say pretty much going to happen, but I think the fans would want to see it for sure.
Yeah, it would definitely be an occasion to remember. I mean, like if you got the championship team and the Premier League winning team, between them there's some great players. I think as much as we'd love to see some of the title winners back, I think we'd all love to see Lloyd Dyer running down the wing as well.
yeah, that would be awesome. And it just obviously coming on from that, obviously the FA Cup win, Premier League winning. Obviously, you've been there in Northern Ireland. What was the reaction there like? I don't know if you moved there just about then, but what was the reaction like? I'm just watching Leicester that season because again, we were all kind of. It still feels like a dream to be honest that season.
Yeah, like I mean, even talk about now, it sort of still throws up goosebumps and stuff. I think the weirdest part of that season for me was I actually moved to Northern Ireland in March of that year. So this was all going on, and like I obviously made the big move, choice to move across here. So, funny enough, where I was working before, I was working with an Everton fan, and the two of us would sit and talk football all day, and then we actually had another Leicester fan join our team at work, and again, the whole way through the season we were winding him up, but as it went on, certainly towards Christmas, people were saying, "Are you going to do it? Are you going to do it?" And like I just remained, I was like, no, like until I see Wes Morgan's hands on the trophy, like I'm not going to even start believing it's going to happen. So I just didn't want to jinx anything, by saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to win it." So obviously then moving to a completely new country, not knowing anybody, and then going into work and then like joining a football team here and people going, "Oh, who do you support?" and saying, "Oh, I'm a Leicester fan." Like a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, pull the other one," like as if I was making it up, and I was like, no, trust me, some of the pain and torture I've been through, I would not make that up, But yeah, I mean that again, that was incredible. I remember, I think I booked days off work around the final couple of games, obviously watching them at Old Trafford, and like when Wes Morgan obviously scored that equaliser, you thought, oh my god, we're going to win this at Old Trafford. That's going to be incredible. And then getting the draw, you were sort of like, right, okay, on to Tuesday. And I remember watching the game on my sofa on Tuesday. And I actually almost turned it off at 2-0 for Spurs because I just thought, well, Chelsea aren't getting back into this. But something inside me told me not to. Got to obviously watch the equaliser and again celebrated wildly and for the equaliser. But the funniest one with that, actually at the final whistle, I don't think I even celebrated. The first thing I did is I picked up the phone to ring my dad. And I don't think the phone even rang. I think he was almost as if he was probably going to do the same to me, and just instantly the two of us, like, we could hardly even get sentences out. Like neither of us could believe what we'd actually just seen, because again, similar to the FA Cup, like while you're during it and watching it and going on, you're still in the back of your mind to go, anything's possible, it might not happen. But actually, when the reality sets in of what we just done, I think it topped anything I'd ever seen in football whatsoever. And also having just moved to Northern Ireland to actually start my own coaching badges and stuff, it was sort of a thing where I'm sitting there going, like, anything can happen. You can, anybody can win anything, so just sort of go for it. So again, I think on a personal note as well, it sort of gave me a bit more of a push to do what I want to do, because if those lads that were banded together with a unfavoured manager at 5,000 to 1 to go on and win, the hardest league in the world, then anybody can manage it. So definitely worth every second of being able to watch that season. It was just incredible.
Yeah, it was just an amazing season. And just the final question, obviously, on that, where were you and what were you were just saying when you won the league? Was it you were with, if were you watching it at home, or do you remember that? Because you was just saying that moment, for me, it was such a special moment, because I remember I was doing my exams during that time. Well, I was studying for my exams, but I was like, let me just stick it on in the background, just to, and then I was like, I'll do my revision. And then watching it going 2-0, I was like, that's fine. We'll beat Everton at home. And then the second goal goes in, and I did the same thing. I rang a few of my mates, and I was like, I remember going to the ground, I was like, we've done it. And just we both was the same thing. Like, I don't know what to say. So we kind of like, but there was loads of other people to join in. So I was like, right, okay, I'll speak to you in a bit. And I just kept phoning other people.
Yeah.
And it was just mental. That day was just in general. I was like, I can't believe we've done it.
Yeah, and I think like the hardest thing, because like I say, I was watching that game at home on the sofa, and I'd actually sort of like I had my phone on silent because I was like, I don't want anybody interrupting me during the game, just in case or whatever. And not only that as well, I was also thinking like if it didn't go well and Spurs beat them, I knew I was going to get abusive texts from some of my Spurs mates, things like that. So I was like, I'm just not going to touch my phone. And then I just remember funny enough, again, as soon as like celebrating, falling to my knees, shouting and probably causing the neighbours a few issues on that. But it was just the whole thing was crazy. I mean, the only regret, I suppose, in a way, well, not regret as such, but certainly being over here rather than being in England. Now, I lived in Milton Keynes anyway, but to be honest, I would have travelled right up to Leicester that night just to get involved. But like I can't imagine what it must have been like to be in and around the stadium that night. Obviously, then at Victoria Park for the celebrations and stuff. Unfortunately, I actually tried to get across for the title parade. But the company I worked for, the other call center, was unfortunately in Leicester. So nobody would swap a holiday with me for me to go over, because everybody in Leicester was obviously going, right, we're going to this. So sitting in Northern Ireland answering phone calls, knowing that everybody else that should normally be answering was where I wanted to be, was definitely hard. But that is the only thing that's a frustration for me, is missing all of that. But hopefully, we'll keep winning a few more things, and I'll get over for one of these trophy parades soon enough.
That was literally going to be my next question as well, because obviously we've obviously won the FA Cup this season. We've mentioned Premier League of recent as well. The Community Shield, which I know that a lot of, especially Big Six fans, don't take seriously, but for me, it's it's an opportunity for silverware, as you know, as kind of supporting Leicester. It rarely comes about. So could you see a future trophy? And do you think that this current team have got a taste for trophies now? Like, right, with the squad that we've got at the moment, they've kind of won a trophy. I think Brendan Rodgers said after that, they've gone, right, if you want this more, we've got to work for it, and you've got to work together and band together. Do you think there's more in the future? Because it's weird to even consider saying that, because back in the day, as you were saying, when we were growing up, it was Martin O'Neill days. That's who people were talking about, the era of like 15 years ago. Now you're looking at a whole new generation where we can go, we can win another trophy.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, like Martin O'Neill days, like that Worthington Cup win was incredible. We've been at Wembley so many times, through the years before that, and to actually win the Worthington Cup, we were like, oh, this is amazing. I think we were kind of happy enough knowing, we might have won anything for a while, but to sit there and go like we won the Premier League, I think we all knew that was something special on its own. And then certainly the following year, it not going so well, there was that sort of, oh well, maybe that was it, that was over. But the way they're going now, like I think there is. I mean, the people moan about, well, not moan, but like say Big Six clubs write off the Community Shield and stuff. But if you ask me, if it was called the English Super Cup, which is essentially what it is, rather than the Community Shield, nobody would be batting an eyelid. They'd be going, oh yeah, you've won that. You've had to have won a trophy to participate in it, or potentially finish second if somebody wins both. But realistically, you can't be in it without winning something. So it's an incredible achievement in itself, and certainly probably more so for us being the first time we've won the FA Cup and then gone on to continue that. So I think you're right. I think the club and the players, they're certainly moving in the right direction. But I think that group there would have bonded so well from having that experience. Certainly some of the newer players into club or the younger players coming up through the academy now that would have heard the stories off of the likes of Wes Morgan, Casper Schmeichel, Jamie Vardy, Mark Albright, and even Christian Fuchs before he left about what it was like during that title winning season. But to now experience something for themselves in winning the FA Cup, to now be able to sit there and know that feeling, and that I can't imagine it's not going to make anybody hungry for more. They're all going to sit there and go, right, that's it. We want more of that. We want more of this. And like Brendan Rodgers has said, they now feel and have that belief that they can get it at Leicester rather than having to move on to one of the big boys or move abroad. So I do see it. I think there's certainly a good crop of players there, a good crop of young players, even like Tielemans and Ndidi and that, who are like two of our star players, are still, in their mid-20s, early 20s. And it's only really, Vardy, Albrighton and Casper that would be at the older end of that. So I don't see why there isn't any reason that they can't push on and keep improving. Certainly under Brendan Rodgers as well, as a manager, has got taste for silverware, albeit people say it's in Scotland, but you can, at the same time, Scotland maybe
not even now. He's got 2 pieces of silverware in England, in Leicester, in England.
Yeah, exactly. So he's proven he can do it anywhere. So you've got a winning manager, now a winning mentality around the club, brand new training ground. Talks of obviously the stadium expansion that's going on. Like, anybody looking at the club and certainly being part of the club must be rubbing their hands together, going, well, we've got a real opportunity here. So yeah, I definitely think that more silverware is certainly a possibility, maybe even this season, but certainly over the next few seasons, I think we'll see a few more winners' medals coming our way.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope so. And again, with this team, it's like with this team, anything is possible, but also the impossible happened with the 5,000 to 1. So anything is possible. So kind of coming on to that, the kind of, as you were saying, there's a new crop of players as well coming through the academy. And is there anybody that you think this season to keep an eye on? I've seen a couple of players come out in pre-season and done really well from the academy as well. But obviously some of the signings and stuff. Is there anybody that's really like, okay, this player is one to look out for, a couple looked out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious one that everybody would sit there and say would be Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. I think we've all been excited from him, obviously, when he was playing for the youth teams, and then certainly last year going on loan to Luton Town, and he absolutely ripped it up. So it was great to see. So I think we were all hoping that he'd come good, and seeing him in pre-season, he looked very good. Obviously made his debut there, coming on against Norwich, which is great. I think it's just the air of calmness about him. So I'm really excited to see how he progresses, certainly under Brendan Rodgers, but just even the level he's at now, I think he'd certainly be making a name for himself this year. Which certainly follows on. Like Luke Thomas is obviously, we've seen how good he can be. We know there's still a little bit of rawness in it, but now he's got, he's had Christian Fuchs there. He's now got Ryan Bertrand there with the experience he can learn off. So I think with multiple competitions and lots of games, we'll see quite a bit of him this year where we can see him develop. But certainly be looking, with Dewsbury-Hall being the main one of the players that are currently in the senior team. For guys that maybe aren't, I like the look of, I'm probably going to say his name wrong, but Maswan Hayes. I don't know how you pronounce his name properly, so apologies for anybody that's now shouting at this. But I think he certainly didn't do himself any harm through pre-season with some of his performances. So I think he's certainly one to look out for in the future. How far in the future, I don't know, but I think certainly with him, he looks a talented young player as well. So it'd be nice to, if we say maybe do get a favourable cup draw, to if we do see him come off on the bench or even get a start, be interested to see how he progresses this year, even with the under 23. So the future's looking a lot brighter than maybe it used to be from our youth setup anyway.
Yeah, and again, a lot, as you were saying, a lot of our people that you consider legend, Gary Lineker, Emil Heskey, had to leave the club in order to progress their career and move on to the next level, and did amazing things, but they're still considered legends here. You're looking at the likes, I think one player you didn't mention is somebody like Harvey Barnes as well, who's come in from such a young age and has just taken off. And again, the sky's the limit for him, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of credit needs to go to Claude Puel for actually recalling him from his West Brom loan. So I know when he first came back, he didn't get maybe as much game time as the Leicester fans, I hope, considering how well he was doing at West Brom. But I think even just having that sort of 6-month period to adapt to the Premier League, being in around the first team, that meant that he is now the player he is, and we've seen how much Brendan Rodgers has improved him. Certainly on his finishing last year, he was phenomenal for his numbers right up until he got his injury. I think he was, I mean, even after his injury, I think he still had better stats for goals and assists than some of the other players in and around the England team. He certainly, as far as I'm aware, had better stats than Jack Grealish did. And he's just been bought for £100 million. So, it shows the level that Brendan's obviously pushing him to. And again, through pre-season, looked very solid again. So yeah, another exciting one to watch this season, and yeah, really hope he just sort of takes off from where he left off. Obviously, before he unfortunately did get injured last year. So again, another great player coming from the youth team.
And again, it was just one of the few players that just absolutely got wrecked by injuries last year as well, where there was quite a few of them, especially towards the end of this season.
Yeah.
With the shortened season and Europa League, and whatever was happening during that time, everything just shrunk down. But I wanted to get onto one player as well. One person you mentioned as well. Brendan Rodgers has obviously changed our club into kind of this and uplifted it to a level where, again, you're right, Pearson deserves credit, Ranieri deserves credit, Puel deserves credit, even though I know the fans aren't the biggest fan of him. As you were saying, he did recall Barnes. He brought in under him, players like Johnny Evans signed. I think Maguire signed under Shakespeare, but Ricardo signed, Maddison signed, Sionchu signed on him as well. So it's not as easy as, he wasn't as good, he was a stopgap. But now we've got Brendan Rodgers. It just seems like he has this synergy with the club. I know speaking recently about the women's side as well, but also just with the players, and he understands the community aspect of Leicester City, which I think is another reason why as soon as we didn't qualify for the Europa League, Brendan Rodgers come out and say, no, my plan is here and I will stay here and be competitive as long as Leicester will be competitive.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing for us. I mean, obviously when we got rid of Puel and we were sitting there and we're waiting on managers, and I think there was sort of that panic that we have been a punching above our weight maybe those last few years. We're probably starting to see more of what we thought was the real Leicester. So you were kind of a bit sceptical about what managers we were going to get in. So when we were linked to a Brendan Rodgers, which it sort of came out of nowhere, it was just all of a sudden like Brendan Rodgers, oh look, there he is walking through the King Power. And I think that actually at the time, like I certainly saw it as a real coup for the club in being able to bring him in. He was winning everything at Celtic, and to grab him mid-season as well. But yeah, like you say, since he's come into the club, like he has been the driving force in this sort of vessel of where the club's going. He's taken the direction the club want to go, and he's matched with it perfectly, and he wants to progress it as well. So as frustrating as it is sometimes when you're seeing him linked with every single time one of the big six clubs, managers is under pressure. I think even today I saw that apparently now Rodgers is one of the favourites for the Arsenal job if Arteta gets sacked. And you're sitting there thinking, like, if Arteta gets sacked, like they're already bottom of the league, let's bear in mind. If Arteta gets sacked, that means it's gone even worse. I really don't understand anybody's logic can go, no, yeah, Brendan Rodgers will go there because he gets to live in London and he gets money. Like those things are great, but like he's getting paid well at Leicester. Let's not forget that. Like he's getting paid well. He's also got a great squad, which he already knows what he can do with. He will already have sat down with recruitment staff and all those sorts of scouts and everything, and his coaching team, and they will have a 3, 4, 5 year plan, because that's the way you have to work at a professional club. So he's not going to suddenly go, yeah, do you know what? Let's take a trip down to Arsenal and start again, because he's at that point now where, like you say, he wants to get top 4, and I think he also wants to get top 4, not just for the club, but I think he wants on a personal level as well. From being a manager that is used to winning things, like he will see that as a blotch on his career. If he doesn't get Leicester into the top 4 or into the Champions League, he will look back at it and say, that's something I've missed out on. So I don't see any reason why he's going to want to give that up. Certainly at this point. So it's great to hear that he wants to stay and go for Leicester, but I will still be wary if the likes of Pep Guardiola does leave Man City in a couple of years' time, and then Rodgers goes, right, okay, well, maybe that's a different kettle of fish going to obviously Man City and taking that club over, who would be ahead of Leicester, to obviously where Arsenal are at the minute. So yeah, there's always a frustration seeing him linked, but I think he's definitely the right man for the job, definitely the right man for the club. He understands it. like you said, he's talking about the women's team and the way that they're progressing, and the way that the club's being really impressive with how they're running the women's team. He obviously understands that everything that's going on at the club on both sides, and that's the sort of person you want in charge of your club, and that's certainly the sort of person you're going to jump through walls for to try and win trophies if that's what he wants you to do. So, yeah, 100% would love him to stay just as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of how a lot of Leicester fans see it as well. And again, a lot of the things are moving in the right direction with the stadium expansion and stuff. And I just want to get your thoughts on that, because I know you've obviously been to the King Power Stadium, you've seen it at times, but that the mock-ups of it just look absolutely stunning, and not just the stadium, but the whole area around it.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly, like, going back even further, like remembering walking down the back streets, all these tall buildings to get to Filbert Street, and going through some of the turnstiles that are in the middle of people's houses and stuff, to then, when we first got the chance to go to, or the Walker Stadium as it first was, and the King Power. So even over the years, seeing that area develop as it has, obviously the addition of the Memorial Garden as well, which I thought has been done brilliantly. So to see all these things that have been added on, you can see it's a nice area, but there was always that feeling like it's been put in an industrial estate. So then seeing these plans, and you're thinking, like, this is a whole new area, like this can completely change the landscape of it. And like you say, the artist impressions and the mock-ups look absolutely incredible. Like talking about, obviously the stand itself looks brilliant. It gives you that sort of image of like the Allianz Arena, obviously Bayern Munich, and Mönchengladbach and stuff, play. So it's great to see that in itself. But then you've got like the walkway across to a separate fan store, which is very Barcelona at the Nou Camp. Then you've got the 220 room hotel, which you're talking about, and then also in an events arena and everything. And to think that they're going to put all that in, like, it's incredible to know that they don't just want to go, right, well, we want more capacity because we want to sell more tickets. They're going, we want this as a whole experience. Again, it just shows what the owners feel with the club. It's not just about getting money in or whatever. It's about the whole family aspect. It's about making people want to come to Leicester City, want to watch Leicester, and also enjoy it. Being able to go to an event next to the King Power all year round is incredible. If you're a local person in Leicester, I think the biggest thing they said from it as well is the amount of jobs it's going to create, which shows again their attachment to the city rather than just the football club. And I think anybody should be proud of that with the owners. So yeah, it's so exciting to see those things, and I was very surprised and overwhelmed to see it. Certainly knowing it shows the commitment as well, I think, which is another big thing.
Yeah, it really does, and the commitment to the club and the state and everything. It's just been second. It's been second to none. It's just absolutely been absolutely amazing. And finally, something that we've not kind of touched on a little bit. I think the final thing to touch on, European football. It's coming back to the King Power Stadium. Obviously that we've got Napoli, we've got Moscow, Sparta Moscow, and Legia Warsaw. I want to say,
yeah.
yes, but. How far do you think we could do in the Europa League? Because I remember looking at odds recently where we were one of the favourites to win it as well.
Yeah, we certainly were one of the favourites to win it, and I mean, part of that probably comes from the fact that having won a silverware, obviously the FA Cup, and knowing that Brendan Rodgers certainly will push us up that as well. Then you've got the fact that we were in it last year, so it's not going to be the first run in the Europa League. It's not alien to us now. So there would have been mistakes that were learned. I think with last year, it was a difficult period. Certainly when the knockout games came, it was against Slavia Prague. It was difficult because we had quite a lot of injuries. The players that were playing almost every single game in a short period of time. So you could see the tiredness. I think certainly around that time, I know Yuri Tielemans and James Maddison just looked almost dead out on their feet at times. So no fault through their own, but that was just the way we were in. So they'll be wanting to go better than last year. I think if you look at the teams in the group stage, I don't see any team there that on our day we couldn't beat. Even in the other groups there. So yeah, I think we have been handed probably a very, very tough group. That being said, obviously all three of the teams in there know European football. Have been in it a lot more than we have. Spartak Moscow and obviously Legia Warsaw, very difficult places to go. Certainly midweek, their fans, absolutely incredible scenes, on a match day, certainly on a European night. So yeah, and then Napoli, I think, speaks for itself. Probably the toughest team we could have taken from that pot there. So certainly will be a difficult one. I think having them at home in the first game is going to be one of those moments we'll probably look back at the season and see whether it went well or whether it didn't. I think if you get off to a win in that, it will breed confidence, not just for the Europa League, but the rest of the season as well. If you get off to a tricky start in that, then potentially playing catch up with one of the other two clubs in the group. But it'll also be a very good test to see where we actually are, because I certainly think ourselves, Napoli, maybe even Lyon, Sociedad, some of those other teams in there will be the favourites to go quite deep. So if we can certainly put out a good performance against Napoli, I think we'd be quietly confident that on our day we could get there. It will just obviously then depend on what Champions League teams drop down for the knockout stage. But what was good to see.
That's if we get second. If we get first,
exactly,
then we're gonna have to compete.
Exactly. So yeah, it's going to completely depend on how well we can get through the group. And I think if we top the group, we would be quite confident. Certainly with a team like Napoli in there, some of the players that they still have. But it was also good to see going on to Napoli's announcement of their group and going through some of the comments from their supporters and. Obviously translating tweets, but a lot of the Napoli fans were also saying, similar to us, saying, "Oh, we've got the toughest draw here. Leicester are a very good team. Does this mean we're going to focus on the league rather than on the Europa League? Because I think they have aspirations similar to us at the minute to get back into the Champions League, side of things and push their way up." So yeah, it was good to certainly see that other teams, are seeing us as a threat as well. So. I think it would certainly be an exciting one, and certainly having the fans back in the stadium. I think that's a very, very good draw for certainly our fans being able to see these teams come to Leicester. It would be certainly worth a show, and some tricky trips away, but certainly some enjoyable ones as well if traveling allow people can get there.
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. I'm still not sure how that works in terms of X country is red or green. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to go to a lot of them. Yeah, we'll have to see. I know how to follow traffic light, and that's all that matters. Anyway,
yes.
Again, thank you so much, Gary, for coming on. Again, where can the people find you? I know you've got your Instagram and Twitter and everything here.
Yeah, so I am mostly on Twitter at the moment. I will actually be back streaming live on Twitch, probably from the start of FIFA 22 when that comes back, and then onto Football Manager. But yeah, C92 on both Twitter and Twitch is where people can find me if they want to come and give me abuse for anything I said, or if they agree with me. Either are welcome. But yeah, really appreciate you having me on. So thanks very much for inviting me on.
No, anytime. So yeah, again, I've left all of Gary's information in the description down below. Make sure you check that out and say hello from us as well. But yeah, thank you so much for Gary joining. We'll see everybody in the next video. So goodbye.